On today's Mattcast, I had the pleasure to talk with Jake and Joel from Jake and Joel Are Magic on YouTube. They make speculation videos, spoiler videos, and videos about Magic the Gathering finance. And I had a fantastic conversation with them today. It's coming up next. Welcome back, everyone, to another Mattcast. I am joined here today with Jake and Joel, and I've been watching them for a few years, so I'm so thrilled to have them on this Mattcast today. Thank you guys so much for joining. Joel and Jake, tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. I'll go ahead and start. I got into the game in 2009. Matt, first, thanks for having us on. It's such a pleasure to be here. And when you reached out on Discord, I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and get this going. So yeah, happy to be here. I started in 2009. Joel and a couple guys got me into the game, and I was like, no, I'm not going to play that game with you guys. That game's lame. And then one day, a buddy of ours, not Joel, got me to finally play a game. And the very first deck I played was like a very casual, like Simic unblockable deck, and I had a really good time playing it. It had like Jesse and Infiltrator and a couple other like jank cards like Phantom Warrior or something.
Oh yeah, I remember that card. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a really good time. And then ever since then, you know, I've played the game. I really like playing limited and stuff like that. Now here we are, many years later, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, how did you get into it, Joel?
For me, I started around 7th edition. I was hanging out at card shops and volunteering time, organizing cards and stuff, and taking any bulk that they would let me build decks out of. And
Joel, how old would you have been during 7th edition if you had to guess?
Man, I was born in 1988, so somebody do the math for me.
Are we all born in 1988?
86.
Jake is born in
86.
Yeah, Jake is
okay. So you're not the year of the dragon. Yeah, so me and Joel are the year of the dragon.
Got him.
I'm the year of the cranky baby.
Oh, damn.
Whatever.
I'm gonna have to remember that one on the calendar next time when I check it out. So 7th edition, that's crazy. You got in really early.
Yeah, and it was super
considering
casual.
We're the same age. Like I didn't get in until like almost Return to Ravnica.
Well,
that was when I started playing.
It's very MTG, man. I go in for 7th edition through like Odyssey block, and then bail, and then come back for Zendikar block through New Phyrexia, and then bail, and then come back around Kaladesh Aether Revolt. It's always been there. I haven't always played it, but it's always been a casual gameplay version for me. And when Commander was a thing, I think that's what's kept me in long term since its inception was Commander. I remember us playing in college. At this point, Jake was playing, and that's you just kind of have those decks for the rest of your life.
We have a joke about Magic the Gathering where it burns once you've played it, it burns inside of you a curse mark.
Your curse
that
mark.
You can leave the game, but there's something that always brings you back to it. So it's like, it really is. It's just like it festers over the years. You can try to control it, but then eventually it's going to pull you back in. And so, because I've left the game too, a few times. I had a couple times where, I didn't touch it for like a year or so and then came back to it. But yeah, I mean, I started in original Zendikar in 2009, and my very first like actual deck was like a really janky Bant deck that didn't have like all the right cards. It had 4 Noble Hierarchs and like Rafik of the Menys, but for the most part, it was a very casual deck. And
it was a well-built Exalted deck, but at the time, an Exalted deck wasn't good. But it was like,
fine. It was when Alara block was on the way out.
Right. Yeah. You just get into the game. You like a strategy.
That was it.
You play it.
That's right. That was it. I made a standard deck. That's what it was. And it wasn't very good. And
but it was fun.
I think 3-color is a really weird place for new players to start out. I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah, that'd be especially, it depends on the format. And also depends on when you started playing. Yeah. I remember when I first started making decks, I would make casual decks. And the first time I ever played against someone was besides my friend group, was at a bar. And I remember I dropped a lightning bolt, And he was like, lightning bolt, is that in standard? And I was like, what the hell is standard? I had no idea what the hell standard was, because I wasn't at a local game store or anything. I was just at a bar. But he was playing a constructed format. I didn't know that they had this little league thing going on at the bar. I just wanted to play Magic, and I had this like really janky burn deck, and it had some goblins in there too. It was like Goblin Burn, and I lost so badly that game though, because my deck was so poorly constructed that's actually was one of the catalysts that got me out of the game for a while, because I was just having fun with friends, kind of like just really casual, almost like Commander, like group hug decks. But it was all we do like two-headed dragon and stuff. And that plus the catalyst of Theros. Those were the two combining forces that got me out of the game. There's something about Theros that I just didn't like. I don't know if it was like the Greek god. I don't know. There's something like the mythology of it just didn't really.
Aesthetic of it.
Yeah, it didn't. Whatever reason, I guess the aesthetics, it just didn't really sit well with me. But for you guys, when you were jumping in and out of the game, was there anything like a set that really got you out of the game? And was there a set that brought you back into the game?
For me, one set, I don't remember being super. I actually, like you, I was very excited when Thoughtseize came out in Theros. Or I will say this, I didn't say, not like you, you didn't say you were excited about Thoughtseize, but I was excited about Thoughtseize, but for the most part, I was not excited about Theros. And what really got me back into the game was Battle for Zendikar. When they decided and they were going to show off these new flashy versions of fetch lands and stuff, I very much went from like an EDH kind of like casual way of approaching the game to like, oh wow, they are not only reprinting fetch lands, but they're printing them in this treatment that is just unreal. And these are actual golden ticket lottery cards. And I would call this the pre-variant era, where
definitely,
like before they get into all these collector products and secret layer and beating us over the head with every single different version of every card. These were truly they were truly rare masterpiece cards, and I spent so much money chasing those, and it's something I'll never do again. And it's funny because I pulled stuff like Scalding Tarn, and I pulled some really, really good ones. Like, and the thing is I opened an Arid Mesa in my pre-release kit for Battle for Zendikar, and that was kind of like the snake bite that really got me wanting to chase those. That was like my first extremely, in my opinion, valuable card. I didn't have any like reserve list stuff, and when I opened that Expo Arid, it really ignited this like, oh, I want to like collect the game and play the game and get back into it. And then I spent thousands of dollars opening Battle for Zendikar chasing those. And very much like it was a way that got me into the game. It was almost a set that got me out of the game as well, because I went into Oath of the Gatewatch and I did the same thing. I did the same thing in Kaladesh. But it was like after all of that wallet fatigue, that was a weird time.
Little did you know, Jake, that it was going to give you this fantastic foundation to talk to people about MTG finance, and
that's a silver lining, baby.
Like after it's like it's talking to gambling addicts as a recovering gambling addict. It's passing the knowledge along.
It truly is, and I didn't want to use that word addiction, like using the curse mark is a good way to describe MTG in a lot of ways, but it is kind of like, from the finance side, it is kind of like an addiction, and it's very much like staving off FOMO and stuff. There's just so much that you really have to you have to curate. What am I going to pick up? What am I going to buy and stuff? But yeah, the set that really got me into the game, or back into the game, was Battle for Zendikar, and also it got me out of the game. But Theros, I was right there with you. Theros, Gate Crash. I think I took a big hiatus during Gate Crash as well. I think what was the first set in that block? It was Return to
Ravnica, then Gate Crash and Dragon's Maze.
Yeah. So in RTR, very excited. I was very excited to get, reprints of the Shocklands and stuff like that. I thought that was a fun set. But then Gate Crash was very medium to me, and I dropped out for a while there as well.
Really? Yeah. Even though they had the other Shocklands in it? That didn't really...
I don't know what it was. It just like Gate Crash kind of fell flat for me, and then whatever the one was after that, which was
Dragon's Maze, I think we can all agree that one was pretty poor. Like Gate Crash, I actually have really good memories playing Gate Crash. But I was part of the Boros clan, I guess. So Boros was insanely powerful during that block. Boros Reckoner was just an incredible card.
I remember when that was a $30 card.
Yes.
I do. Yeah.
And then it still got reprinted, even though it wasn't worth much in Modern Masters 2017. Then it became a bulk rare.
It is a bulk rare now.
Rare now. And it was so good in Standard. That is another thing a lot of people may get out of the game for, building a lot of expensive decks in Standard, which is a money pit. And then once they get out of the game, they spend all this money and they find out that their decks that they made in Standard are basically just bulk rares.
Bro,
that's a pretty tough feeling.
It is that point that you're talking about right there. And you made a point earlier, you were talking about going to the bar with the deck that you were excited about and not being able to participate in that game because of some shit that you didn't know. Excuse my language. The precons now, the commander precons, I feel like are the solution to all of this. They are competitive right out of the box. The language of legality is already set. I have a commander precon. Anybody, if you're a brand new player, any experienced commander player even is going to be able to roughly judge the power level of that and just start playing with you immediately. And you're not going to have to worry about a card that you are super excited about not being playable right there. Also, commander stuff, man. Nowadays, the commander cards aren't really, unless they're going to be reprinted, in the same realm as a Boros Reckoner that is $30 and is going to, go just absolutely plummet in price once it's rotated out. Your commander cards are going to retain their value. We go through all of these decks. Jake and I just shot a video, and one of the cards in there that's just popping up in my head right now is Fevered Suspicions. It's a rebound card, very powerful sorcery in red and black, but it's going to be one of these cards that, unless they reprint it, it's just going to retain value. And also, I mean, the decks aren't going to rotate anyway, so you don't even have to worry about the decks plummeting in price.
It's funny. There's that meme where people say, Legacy is going to cost you less in the long run than Standard will. And a Legacy deck is a very expensive. I mean, but
it retains a decent amount of value too.
It not only retains, but if you'd bought a Legacy deck like 2 or 3 years ago, I'm sure you wouldn't be upset with the return on the price of those cards.
Especially if they ran dual lands,
right. If you're running dual lands and like LEDs or anything like that, that's going to be just reserve list. Anything is going to be going up. And even though it's like Brainstorm is like the honestly the flagship card of that format,
100%
kind of defines the format in a lot of ways. And that's like a $1 card. The cards that you need in the background that you replace, your shock lands with and stuff, those are the cards that are very expensive and stuff.
Always lands, bro. Always lands.
It's always lands and like very niche, very specific. Like I said, LED is like a card that just like comes to mind in like Legacy Storm. There's not a lot of different cards in those decks, but it's just like the ones that you need are just so pricey and stuff. But in the long run, again, you're not going to be upset with it because, like Standard and the changing of the guard, one of my buddies, I traded Boros Reckoners for like Goblin Guides at the time.
And
at the time, but at the time, I'm like, all right, these Boros Reckoners are like $30. There are so many cards where I can look back and go, oh man, I bought like 200 SRAMs. I should have unloaded those before SRAM was reprinted in Commander products and Modern Horizons products, and now it's getting reprinted in a Challenger deck as a 4 of in such a meaningful way. And I truly spec that card in such a way where I was like, this card is going to go up in price, and it sure did, but I missed the window of unloading those. I have all the foils, but all of the ones that Card Kingdom would have bought for like $5 a card, while like the base version, they've all flatlined to less than $1. So
Jake, I remember you encouraging me to sell my play set of Goblin Guides when I stopped playing Modern Burn.
Oh, yeah.
I remember you telling me to sell those for like 30 a pop.
And now you look at Goblin Guide and where it's gone as well. I mean, the
card
equity.
That is the card. If there's no card. Well, I played a lot of Modern. I still have most of my Modern decks, but my Modern Burn deck, I didn't buy it at its all-time high, but I think I spent about at least $25 per Goblin Guide.
Yeah.
And it went down to like $7. Right now it's under $10. I know that.
Modern Masters 2017 was where I remember it bottoming out. I remember Joel took Goblin Guides up to this store, and the store was offering like 6s on them.
Wow.
And that was just like the Modern Masters 2017 guide really like destroyed the price of that card. But then also Modern hitting an all-time high as well as far as like card prices, and then you have Pioneer coming in that kind of like usurps that format as being interesting because there are no fetch lands in it, more attractive to more casual players that don't want to put that money in. I don't know. Modern has been in kind of a weird place. I mean, I will, at least for Goblin Guide. Let's just say that.
Yeah. The point is that there have been in the past, I think there's always been this mental barrier, not just mental, physical, monetary barrier to entering MTG. And I feel like the format Commander and Wizards' stewardship of the pre-con decks for Commander over the past year, I feel like they are printing competitive stuff straight onto shelves in a format that'll never rotate. And that's going to be more eyes on the game and a good thing overall. My dog is trying to say hey right now.
Yeah, I was just seeing it popping in the frame there. Yeah, like for me, Goblin Guide it was one of the prime examples of why you should only invest in, if you're going to buy decks and have cards to invest in, just do it reserve list. Even Legacy would be a little safer, I think, than Modern. Modern also bottomed out during the pandemic too, because it's arguably the most competitive format, and we don't have tournaments being, where people are trying to net deck to basically win. The cards just were bottoming out. They were free falling pretty much for the most part.
Right.
But now they've actually stabilized and Modern is on the rise.
Yes, I remember,
except for Goblin Guide.
There was like it may have been an Alpha Investments video, but it was like Diamond Hands on Modern or something like that, because Modern was at an all-time low.
Yeah.
And like I remember was talking about, or it might have been a Reddit post, but somebody had lost like 70% of their collection's value during the beginning of the pandemic with just how bad Modern was. And it's like, if you were holding those singles, it was best to just hold them. I've always seen Magic as like a long-term hold in a lot of aspects.
Sealed product, yes.
But you can, if it, like, this is my big thing, and I think this is where a lot of players fall short, is when you start to see this game as like a sentimental thing. Like I say, let there be other things in your life that are sentimental, but let Magic just be dollars and cents. Have some cards and some decks that are sentimental to you, but for me, most of it is just like sell it into the rip and like buy cards back during the dip. And a lot of players don't like that mentality. They think that that's kind of like toxic for the game. But I have to say that, like with anything, that it's very hard. Let's just say this. It's very hard to ignore the financial aspect of MTG when you're spending hundreds upon thousands of dollars on Secret Lair products, new $300 boxes that come out. We're going to have double masters coming out. You have to really start to look at it as like a big financial investment. And so 100%. I don't know. It just, they seem to go hand in hand together.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with my partner more. It is absolutely imperative to acknowledge that side of the game. It is irresponsible if you don't. It is part of it. It is a collectible card game.
If you have the money to not care, then great.
But I want you to play. That's why I'm sitting here going, y'all, I'm trying to stand at the top of mountains and shout. The Commander precons are good. You can buy them, sleeve them, and play them and have a fun experience immediately. Watch any of my videos of the past year on them. Because it's just such an expensive game, man. It's a collectible card game that is based in pieces of cardboard that came out in 1993, 1994. So
yeah,
we got.
If you see the cards as just dollars, there's so many moves that you can make in this community to grow a collection from nothing. You could grow.
Well, I was gonna say the perfect example of that would be to, once a set rotates out of standard, sell your high value cards in that deck for reserveless cards or just like staples that are played across multiple formats.
Yep.
Well, and you said once it's rotating, right? Like when, I think the timing of that is very important. That's something that a lot of people are always kind of like checking with each other to see when is the right time to go.
If there's too many listings on eBay, then you may have missed the boat.
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I find your guys' channel fascinating. I watch a lot of your content, by the way. So that's why I'm also happy to have you guys on. whether it's MTG, whether it's finance, whether it's spoilers. But you guys live, because when I was setting this up, you guys live on opposite sides of the country. But you guys seem very familiar with each other. How did you guys meet?
Well, we know each other all the way back from high school. I actually have a yearbook that has Joel in it. So we've known each other for more than a decade now. Actually, more years than that, more than I care to count.
Say, I think we're working on our second decade, almost, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on knowing each other for a long time, and we come from an improv background. At least in college, we both did. Joel was doing improv before I was. I got into improv after him. He was one of the proponents that got me to join the improv troupe in college. And so we have a lot of like stage and improv background that will which will kind of inform why sometimes we just do like one takes and maybe where some of our banter comes from and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would say that, I've known Joel since 2003. Earlier than that. I mean,
yeah, it would have been around there because I graduated high school 2007. And so I met you my freshman year of high school.
Right. So I would have been just a couple years older than him, and then we met in the theater program there.
Yeah.
So I was in the theater program in high school too, but I didn't have any friends who played Magic, unfortunately. So
we did not play Magic until many years later.
Yeah, we met in high school. We knew each other for 6 years before we really played Magic.
Magic.
How did you guys discover though?
Around Joel had the collection. He had all the cards
because he was collecting earlier.
One year in college, it was like his family came down, or he went up and brought all his cards down. Joel, you're gonna know better than me, but I just remember we were at this house. Everybody was at this house, and in college, with the theater department, we had a house, or Joel had one that was right on campus. So it was always people in and out, whether it was theater people or just lots of parties and stuff like that. And it was very much like one of those like campus house party houses all the time. He brought his cards down and like everybody was building decks. It was all very random.
The bridge was World of Warcraft and Halo and other video games. I mean, if we weren't,
that's right.
Like when I wasn't playing Magic the Gathering, there was definitely some gaming outlet happening for me. It's always been the case ever since like middle school for me. And so we were all playing World of Warcraft until wee hours in the night every single day. We were all playing Halo until wee hours of the night every single day. One time, so it's always just been whatever game was happening and whatever game was there and cool. And my collection came out of cleaning, and it had just been in storage, and I brought it down one time. That's a weird story. I was in 8th grade, my house burned down when I was a kid, and so lost a lot of collection, but there was a big chunk of it that went to this smoke poisoning cleaning place, and a bunch of stuff came back, and I've still got cards in my collection that have like a nice smoke line right across them where half the card is basically like black and charred, and there's this perfect line of,
if you didn't know, you'd think it was a misprint.
It's weird. It's weird looking, but some of them came back from cleaning that looked like that, and I was like, well, I'm obviously keeping these forever because this is a crazy collector's item. But I brought down a bunch of MTG cards, and that kind of got us back into it. So I guess we just remember my mother just wanted them out of her house. And,
Torment, Odyssey, Stronghold, all those.
Tempest, a lot of I was buying cards at like flea markets in Alabama where my mom was from, and so
I remember that collection just having like stacks of Cabal coffers and standstills and just like really, really good stuff that when you're first starting EDH in 2009, this is funny for somebody that might be watching. In 2009, Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale was like $130 for perspective.
And people probably still thought that was expensive back in the day.
I remember because when we were building
Mage,
I looked at Tabernacle's price and I was like, oh, well, that's absurd. You know, I'm a broke college kid. I'm not going to pay $120 for this card that obviously is good and really interesting. But
2 nights of delivering pizzas, which was our college job.
Exactly.
By the way.
Yeah.
That's actually a pretty sweet job. I would love to deliver pizzas.
Yeah, we had a great time.
It was great.
There's
not now.
We'll have to talk about the pizza delivering stories offline, not on the YouTube channel. But the the meme we always go back to for our understanding of MTG finance and the monetary aspect of the game early on is buying a booster pack of Zendikar and pulling a fetch land, and then the store owner being like, "Oh, I'll give you 3 booster packs for that," and you're just like, "Okay. That sounds dope. I could get 3 rares versus this dumb land. I can't wait."
Yeah, but then what's really funny is you would take the Electropotence that you pulled out of those Zendikar packs and you would take that up to him to try to trade it for packs, and he doesn't want it. So then you very quickly realize and start to understand how that works. And wait, maybe that land was actually better than I thought it was.
Right.
But yeah, I remember back then, you would be cracking fetch lands, and those were like, geez, $10 to $12 a card at the time, right out the pack. And as like a college kid who just like paid $3 or $4 for a booster pack, that's great.
Yeah,
That's
I had
awesome.
no idea about the financial side of the game when I was first playing. I paid no attention to it, didn't care. I just like playing the game. And I think that's a great place for anyone to approach it at first. I don't think people should be thinking so much of the financial side right away. No. Just grab some bulk, 100%. Make some decks, and have fun with some friends. I heard something off camera. Oh,
yeah, sorry.
Something shattered or something. I'll keep going anyways with this. So that brings me to this one incident that I also had at my LGS, where I was trying to build like a mono red haste kind of deck, maybe a few lightning bolts, something just really aggro. And this is around the Return to Ravnica block. And the shopkeeper was showing me options that I could put into the deck. He showed me Ash Zealot. If you remember, that was a 2/2 first strike haste creature.
Oh, yeah. Card's great, and if something flashes back, it deals 2 damage to the opponent.
In the graveyard. So like it's 2/2 for 2, and I'm like, well, it's 2 red. That's fine if I'm playing a mono red deck. That seems fine with me. And it was like $1.50 at the store. And I was like, okay. I mean, I don't like the idea. I kind of like I like buying booster packs and opening them. I just didn't see the value of like buying something directly for that money. And I'm like, I can get 15 cards for another $1, right?
Well, and the serotonin of opening the loot box.
Exactly. When you're first getting into it, that's when you first start cracking packs, especially you start getting addicted to it.
Right.
And I was like, well, I need 4. I guess that's a play set. And they said, but you could get this Goblin Guide. It came out in Zendikar a few years earlier, and it was like $25 or something. And I remember being like, what? $25? It's like, but it's 1 mana and it does 2/2. I'm like, and I got it from like a competitive aspect. Yeah, that makes sense. But I'm like, $25? No, like no way.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why like the competitive aspect of the game is what drives a lot of the prices of those formats. And that's why if Wizards is not holding these events and these tournaments like Magic Fest, GP and all that, like I don't know what's going to happen to the future of Magic, because if they're not facilitating these tournaments the way that Flesh and Blood is now, I think if MetaZoo might start something, then what's going to happen? Is it just going to be a bunch of people playing casual?
I watched my very first ever MetaZoo box opening. I have no idea what this is about. You could probably tell me a little bit about it. I am familiar with Flesh and Blood, but I do know that it's it feels like these like FOMO waves. Like if you see somebody sell a box of MetaZoo for $25,000 or whatever, you're like, why didn't I jump in that? What happened there? And you want to start to chase that. My advice to people is, don't chase those a lot of the time, just because, if you weren't there at the foundation, I don't think it's worth it to
also,
buy at the peak,
you're just, and also if you're just in it for a quick buck, that's where you're going to really have trouble resisting the FOMO. For me, I just don't, it's not something for me right now. Maybe if the game ages and the prices stabilize, I'll look into the game and see if it's something I'd like to play. But right now I'm just so invested in Magic the Gathering, whether it's time or money. I'm just going to stick with this game, but I'm definitely a little worried of the future.
I think it's a good game though in the long run because it has withstood the test of time, which is it came out in 1993. Here we are, many years later, and it's still around. And I do agree with you though. I do agree that, you know, if we're gonna have this Modern Horizons set, where's the modern support for it? If Modern Horizons 2 comes out, where's the modern support? Let's get that going. If players are itching to build decks, if all of the cards are creeping up because people are interested in the format, then let's run some tournaments of that format. I will say that the LGS right near me is always doing modern tournaments, and it's on Sunday in the morning, so you can go there, you can play modern and stuff like that. I was there this past weekend and I was drafting mystery boosters, but it looked like there was enough for like two tables of modern, so maybe like 16 people came out for modern, which is pretty good. I mean, that's a nice turnout for also having mystery boosters going on. But I will say that, yeah, you know, if we're going to be pushing these sets, like these challenger decks that are coming out for Pioneer, if those are coming out, where's the Pioneer support? You know, like let's get Pioneer tournaments going. That way people can explore these cards. You know, if I know that I can buy, you know, a competitive Pioneer deck, then that's great. But if none of my friends are playing it, if there's no tournament for it, then, you know, what's the point? It's just like, oh, great. You know, we're just buying this thing that's branded as this thing that could come or go. It could maybe be supported, maybe not.
It's putting a lot of pressure also on local game stores to basically keep the game alive. Because if Wizards of the Coast isn't facilitating these tournaments themselves, then it's the only competitive aspect and monetary value these cards are going to have from that aspect of it is going to be the local game store, which is already getting less and less support from Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
So I get that's the pandemic was a thing that happened. And obviously that's not on Wizards, but when Channel Fireball kind of just dropped out and said, hey, we're not going to be doing these tournaments anymore, Wizards is like, all right, they had no plan, no game plan to set anything in motion. Now it looks like things are opening back up across the world. Obviously, some places more than others, but I feel like if there's no big plan for any GP Magic Fest in the next 12 months, I'm just worried about the modern format. I'll still play. I still have my decks. It doesn't really bother me that much, but for the game's just health as a whole. But I guess we're just reiterating our points previously.
Yeah, no, I but it is a good point. It is a good point to reiterate. And yeah, I mean, I have like 3 or 4 modern decks built as well. I would love to play the format. I will go to the LGS and jam some games, but yeah, you know, we do need Magic Fest. That's a great time. I think that's an awesome place for players to all get together, all these different conventions and stuff like that. And yeah, I am really interested to see where it goes. I know that we both are. We were really bummed when we didn't get to go to GP Vegas and just jam some two-headed giant. We don't even go there to play the main event. We just go there to like play two-headed and hang out and like, you know, get some drinks and do whatever, have a good time.
Yeah. I mean, overall, with the whole point, you know that it's on their minds, and you know that there's got to be so many legal angles, health angles, all the stuff that comes with being an enormous corporation. Turning that is turning a tanker. And you've got, you know, Michael's and Staples and Target, all the stores that are in every town, trying to all still figure out what they're allowing, what they're not allowing. It makes a little bit of sense to me that Wizards isn't like, hey, I'm going to invite 400 people to come and sit across tables from each other and touch the same stuff that each other's touching.
I mean, they're opening themselves up right now for massive criticism, right?
They've got to like tiptoe into this. And you also know, dog, the first one they announced, I don't care where it is. They could be like, it's in Twiddle Tom No State. It's in an unmarked island off the coast of Ding Dong. I would just, dude, I'm there. Everybody's going to be there, man. People are going to be like, well, I really want to, can I drive? Can I fly? How do I get there? It's just going to be a huge thing. That's why I'm super suspect that they're just going to be like GP Vegas summer 2022. And that's how they're going to restart the whole thing so that they can accommodate the entire just like rush that is going to be people to go to these events that they want. And I think that they want to do it. I think that it's easy. I'm also going to seem like a corporate apologist, so goddamn comment section, forgive me. But I know that they are sitting around thinking of it. They're not like, should we have a meeting about the new variants? No. We need to talk about the tournaments. No, we need to talk about variants. I just know that they're talking about it.
No, because I guarantee you, dude, and I'm going to piggyback off that. And I guarantee you that, when you're not getting the same sort of interest in MTG Arena, I can't imagine people are running away to the hills to like spend money on MTG Arena assets and skins and different stuff. Like they are.
I bet we would all be shocked by the.
I'm sure that there are some whales that are. I'm certain that there are some whales that do buy everything on MTG Arena.
Yeah, you're talking about,
but you cannot print paper product and then not have paper tournament play. Like if you want to print paper product, which we all want, people like to play EDH. There's a thing that I always say, and whenever this argument pops up, will Arena replace MTG or anything like that? And it's always, there's nothing like sitting down at the table to actually play a physical game of MTG, be it a round of limited, just drafting with players, or a game of EDH with like a 4-person pod. There's nothing like it, and it can't be replaced with online. You can try to do it with Spell Table, you can try to do it with all this stuff, but when you're sitting there actually like hanging out, touching the cards, the camaraderie of it, all of that just can't be replaced. And so, if you want to print these very expensive pieces of cardboard, you have to have the tournament support for it. And I do hope Joel is right and that it is at the forefront of their minds and they're trying to figure out how to bring it back, because it is such a huge part of their model and their game. Like they just have to have it.
They want to make money. That is the bottom line. And so if it is something that they view as profitable to their system, they are going to pursue it with ferocity. If they don't, it's because they judged it as not making them money. And that sucks, but it's a thing.
But when there actually was no physical play in 2020, they made the most revenue they've ever made in history.
Yeah.
So
that's something that I think about too. And that was when they raised the collectability of the game, right? They started making collector packs. They started focusing more on the collectability versus the gaming aspect.
For this long.
But here's the thing that we need to talk about.
You can't raise the collectability past a threshold. It just becomes ridiculous.
But more money was printed in 2020 than there was we can get into like the value of the dollar and where that went with all of the printing of money that happened in 2020. And sure, they made money hand over fist, but so many people had money that they never had that were just like, oh, well, here's government money that I'm going to YOLO into collectibles. And I think MTG was very smart to, there's you could get a tinfoil hat conspiracy going that, they maybe pushed products that weren't exactly going to come out that year to try to make sure to bank on all of that money that people were going to have, it's impossible to tell how that went. But I will just say that, if you're getting extra money that you don't typically have, and then there were so many people that were finding loopholes to have extra money who already had money, and it was just a whole nightmarish mess. And reserve list hit all-time high. We're seeing a correction on that. It's pretty wild what happened. And if people were betting on GameStop, for example, if you had put $5,000 into GameStop when it was at $2, oh man, you're not worried about anything at this point.
So is your point that they may have less money now?
My point is kind of like, sure, they made a ton of money, but it was when money was losing a lot of its value, right? At least if you can't just print money into oblivion without it having any sort of foundation to back it up, right? And I don't know how all of that works, but I just know that the printer can't just go forever, right?
There's some people that say it can.
Well, if interest rates stay low, then
I guess, right?
There's no safe place to put your money, really. But you know what? I was watching your stream earlier today. We can actually end with this. because they are starting to obviously do their.
You don't want to end with a discussion on the National Reserve? We could talk about
the Federal Reserve.
Talk about
we got our own central bank here. We just piggy bank off of whatever you guys do at the Fed. We're like, that sounds good to us.
To discuss American economics on this podcast.
No, I did that with Edwin in the last Mattcast that I had with Edwin, Magic Engineer. But I was watching your stream earlier today, and I found it crazy. I almost fell off my chair when I saw the Fortnite was going to be a part of the Magic the Gathering universe. Yeah. So that made me think of a question that I can ask you guys. If there was any IP that you'd like to see associated with Magic the Gathering, which IP would that be? I'll start with you, Jake, since you look like you've already got the answer.
Aliens. The Alien franchise. I would be fine with straight up xenomorphs, and like you could put literal Ellen Ripley, Hicks, Hudson, Vasquez, Apone, the entire team in there. I would love it. I'd get behind it in a heartbeat. Also Predator, Critters, any of that. But above all else, funny. Alien. I think the Alien franchise would be amazing. We've already seen some stuff in like Phyrexia that's pretty.
I was gonna say
like
Phyrexian Negator is pretty close to Xenomorph. Yeah, a little
skin
bit.
render. A little bit.
Yeah.
There's some close
any
ones.
Sort of
exoskeleton.
Any Ron Spencer art, pretty much.
Yeah.
So what about you, Joel? If you had one IP.
I'm a huge Marvel fanboy, so give me Captain America, give me Iron Man. I will form a partner deck out of Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and it'll be super sick.
It's funny that you said that. That's exactly what I would have too. Would be maybe not quite that, more on the Spider-Man side of it. Maybe Spider-Man Venom partner deck.
Oh, dude, any of it. Just give me any Marvel IP in there. I'll play a vampire deck led by Blade. That'll be tight.
That honestly, I would totally get that. That would be amazing. Like, see, that's what I'm saying. The IPs you're bringing it up earlier. I don't know if it was on the stream or before we started recording, but yeah, there's going to be some things that people are going to pass on. They're going to be negative about, and there's going to be some IPs that they merge with that people are going to think it's a home run, and it's a win-win, really.
You're talking about
Fortnite has a
millions of players
popping around on it, with a.
Well, it's going to happen. It's got to happen. Yeah. Surely that was part of the deal,
right? It's like, we're going to put your characters and your aesthetic in the card game, and then the card game characters are going to pop up on Fortnite. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see which ones that they choose as well. I imagine that that's going to be part of this.
Looking at them as a company that wants to make money, and if they make money, they grow. It puts more eyes on the game.
Give me players in the game too.
Yeah, it gives me exactly. So give me all the IPs you got.
Yeah, that's a good note to end on with this chat. I think we've been talking for a little over half an hour now. I'm just so thankful you guys came on the Mattcast today. And do you guys have any closing thoughts you'd like to leave with?
I don't know. Matt, what is the gem of your collection? I want to know, because now I'm intrigued. You brought this up earlier. The gems of the collection. What is
if you have any gem? Yeah, that was right. That was one of the questions that
we prepped on the questions.
Yeah, we prepped on it. I think we didn't go with any of them. We just had a conversation. I think that's even better.
That's sometimes how the plan goes. We'll just save the gems for a different day.
Well, we'll probably hopefully I can get you guys on the Mattcast again at one point, and later in the future. But with that being said, guys, thank you to everyone who's watching. Guys, subscribe to Jake and Joel if you already aren't. They have a fantastic channel. They talk about finance, they do spoilers, and anything Magic the Gathering related. You can find them on YouTube. Okay, guys, I will leave it with that, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Being a patron will help me produce more market movers and add to the funds that I will use for my random buys, and also to my coffee fund, because I drink a lot of coffee for these videos. And here you can see a link below in the description that will give you all the tiers and what you get in each tier. So I hope you guys click and think about joining. And with that, I'll see you next video. Think about supporting the channel in that way. If not, subscribe, like, leave a comment, and I will see you again in the next video.